And welcome into the Friday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar. Joe Rexrode will be along shortly. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We got a whole lot going on the program today. The college football playoff semifinal last night. We've seen one team punch their ticket. And we've got another matchup to get into tonight, and we will take your thoughts on all that. The head coaching search still underway for the Tennessee Titans. More names trickling out there as to who will be interviewed and some potential targets for the Titans. And we will have TD with us to help us talk about that a little bit later in the show as well. So looking forward to Teron Davenport being with us on the program. Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. Doing good. Little rainy out there. So heads up on the way in. Little tired. I made it through the whole game. I stayed up.
Look at you.
Good game, obviously, but doing great. Happy Friday, everybody.
Hope everybody is doing well. Again, Miami punching their ticket last night, 31-27, the final score. So Miami and Carson Beck taking down Ole Miss. They punched their ticket to the national championship game. Joe Rexrode, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I mean, I got people stealing cords of mine, so I'm going to sound like I'm inside a toilet right now, probably, for one thing. So sorry about that. The stealing of cords that I have to use for this is real problem.
Real problematic.
Yeah. So next break, I'll see if I can, rustle up a way to not sound like a frog in a toilet.
You sound okay. It's not that bad. Yeah. Your thoughts on Miami's big win last night? What a story for Carson Beck going from Georgia, transferring to Miami. Some, concern from the Miami standpoint of whether or not they were going to get into college football playoff the last couple of weeks of the season. They do. And, Joe, now they find themselves in the national championship game on the other side. What a story for Ole Miss, getting through the playoff without Lane Kiffin. But that run comes to an end last night.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are rooting for Ole Miss just because of the Lane Kiffin thing. And it's a pretty cool story. I like how Pete Golding has handled it. They probably should have lost that game by 10 to 14 points. Miami really physically better them, and then Miami did a lot of things to screw it up and make sure that it was still a close game. And look, Ole Miss did too. Trinidad Chambliss, it kind of stinks to think that, boom, snap of the finger, he leads that drive, and then it's like, yeah, that might be the last play he plays in college football unless he wins his case to get another year, in which case he will play for Ole Miss, which that'd be, I don't know if he'll win it. I don't know if he should win it. It'd be fun to see him win it.
It would.
But in the meantime, great story for Carson Beck. You got to be impressed with him. After, yes, he won championships with Georgia as a backup, but obviously he took a lot of blame. He got hurt. He was top of the draft guy, and then all of a sudden it's like, is he draftable? That's an interesting part of this is, how much did he help himself that in that way? But yeah. I just thought he was fearless. And again, Miami should have won that game going away, right? They were, I think, clearly the better team. So it's like you said, it's a team that we weren't sure was going to get in. We're sitting there every week. It's like, well, they're not quite close enough to Notre Dame to be compared to Notre Dame. And they very nearly did not make this field, and here they are. So, I'll go back to the beginning, and I'm not necessarily changing my answer, but I remember, when you were talking about the Group 5 teams and, the teams that didn't get in, I don't think Vanderbilt was going to get this far. Maybe Notre Dame could have, maybe. But I think we also look at Miami and go back to the beginning of the year. I don't know what the heck happened to them against Louis. I don't know what happened in the middle of the season to Miami. Yep. But they're one of the best teams. This is not a fluky team being in the national title game,
No, they're incredibly talented.
Yeah. And Cristobal has taken a lot of crap. And Oregon fans will tell you, they couldn't wait for him to leave with game management stuff and things like that. But I mean, guy can coach a little bit, it seems like.
Well, and look, the Malachi Tony kid who's 18 years old, who is, just another 5 for 81 last night and another touchdown. And a bunch of their offense runs through him, both down the field and at the line of scrimmage. I mean, there's so many different ways they can get him the ball. And, they were talking about this on the broadcast last night, just how impactful he's been so early. It's pretty incredible to watch what he's done. And you look at him, you're like, well, he's not the biggest guy. He took that absolute shot early in the game last night on the targeting call. And I was like, well, he may be done the rest of the night. Of course, like 2 plays later, he hops right back out there and is ready to go. But that kid's really good.
He's special. And it's crazy how many of these freshman receivers we've seen. Obviously, last year you had the combo of Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, Ohio State, Alabama. But now to think about him for 2 more years of college football, he is something else. And down the field. And, Ole Miss screwed up one. I don't know why you ever, as a safety, worry about the tight end when he's out there running a post.
Yeah.
It's just – but then to get that tunnel screen too. I mean, he broke a couple tackles last night that it's like, how is a freshman doing that to you, to a linebacker or a safety or whatever. But no, he's something else. So now they get to play for the whole thing in Miami.
Yeah, it's amazing how that part of it works out. Joe, yet another year where the SEC is out before the national championship game even arrives. You'll have Indiana and Oregon coming up, and the winner of that's going to take on Miami. So another year where the SEC is not going to be in the national championship game, coming off a bowl season that frankly did not go very well for the SEC. And I know, college football playoff, they did have one matchup against each other. So you have to keep that in mind. But the playoff didn't go overly well other than Ole Miss's run that they made to the semifinal here. So what do you make of that with now the 3rd year in a row that the SEC doesn't even get into the title game?
Yeah, well, look, I think that I don't know if I guess it depends on how you look at it. The Big Ten is going to play for the title 3 years in a row. The SEC is not going to play for the title 3 years in a row. The Big Ten might win it 3 years in a row. It doesn't mean nothing. Again, I think you said it before. It's like, the SEC is loud and out front when the numbers are in their favor, so you can't now just dismiss them. We know bowl games have a limited meaning, but I don't dismiss this as nothing. The super team is just really hard to have anymore. The Georgias and Bamas of not long ago that just straight up had like full second units that could beat most other teams.
Yeah.
Right? Like that just doesn't exist. They're gonna go somewhere else and play and I'm back up here, getting a pittance on top of my scholarship. I mean, whatever that would be, but it's not that much. I mean, you when you're a starter in Power 5, then all of a sudden you're talking about 6 figures and then up and up, and obviously into the millions when you're a star or when you're a quarterback. So you're going to, the kids are going elsewhere where they can play faster. Maybe it's not always in the best interest of them, but that's just, I don't see it changing. And I just don't see teams being able to stockpile the way that they used to. So that's part of it. I also think some of this is just, it can be circumstantial. It can be a quarterback. It can be, it's a close game here or there that goes against you. But certainly the clear dominance is gone. I still think there's more programs in the SEC that have all of the ingredients to win than there are in the Big Ten or any other league.
Yeah.
I understand that like Iowa beat Vandy and stuff. And there's been a lot of written about that. Like I thought the mid-level was way better. That's where you got to be careful with the bowl results. I still think there's more good programs in the SEC, but the dominant era is gone. And I just think that we'll have an SEC champion soon enough, I'm sure. But I don't know that we're going to be looking at any league winning 7 in a row or whatever it was like the SEC did, back in the day. So it's kind of just spread out. But people are going to have their fun at the expense of the SEC right now. So you're going to have to just grin and bear it, Greg Sankey.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun offseason. Fun offseason for Greg Sankey. I'm sure he'll love all that. By the way, I mean, as George from Murfreesboro on the YouTube chat points out, Joe, what does it all mean? Cam and Restrepo leave Miami, and now they're in the national title game. How do you handle that if you're a Titans fan?
Wow, oh, that is interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. It's crazy because I was sitting there last night, and it's like we didn't even talk about this. It's like Cam Ward versus Jackson Dart. They were on the opposing sidelines last night. So I guess Cam's team still won, though, right?
He did.
So there's that.
We're off and running on Robby and Rexrode today, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Take more of your thoughts on the game from last night. We'll look ahead to Indiana and Oregon. We'll give you the latest on the Vols' pursuit for a high-level quarterback. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Fernando, coming off of the biggest win in program history, what have you seen from your team this week?
I see my team still stay humble and hungry. We understand that the Rose Bowl is a great win against a great SEC opponent. However, the job's not finished. We have Oregon, who we played in week 5. We had a great upset against them. However, if anything, they are super hungry. They're feeling like the underdog. And so we need to make sure that we maintain that underdog mentality and be able to play with execution and poise against the Ducks on Friday.
That's Fernando Mendoza looking ahead to the game against the Ducks. By the way, the Game National Sports Network, your home for the college football playoff tonight at 6:30 on 102.5 The Game. It is number 5 Oregon taking on number 1 Indiana in the Peach Bowl. College football playoff coverage on 102.5 The Game presented by Twin Peaks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. Joe, I could listen to Fernando Mendoza talk, I believe, all day. Looking forward to the matchup tonight. What do you think of this matchup that we have seen already this year? Indiana went on the road and took down Oregon. Indiana, obviously, is playing as well or better than anybody in the nation right now. They just absolutely destroyed Alabama. And yet there's Oregon who, always finds themselves in the mix. They haven't been able to break down the door with all these teams and win the national championship. And here they are on the doorstep again of punching their ticket to the title game. What do you make of this one tonight?
I am so very excited for this football game, just like Fernando Mendoza is excited for this football game. Sorry. I was trying to impersonate Fernando Mendoza, and
It's
I
hard to
stumbled. I know I stumbled over my words. Hope I sound better out there though, too, folks. I hope that at least there's like that sweet, milky voice now coming through now that I found my chords that got stolen from me. This is the main event. I mean, last night I was excited about that game, and it's going to be hard for tonight's game to, I think, match last night's game for drama.
Yeah. And
by the way, we never talked about, like, they should have called PI on the last play. They almost never do in a Hail Mary-ish type play, but I got in a debate about this with Scott Docterman on our Slack channel last night, but he's like, well, it wasn't catchable. I'm like, but it wasn't catchable because he dragged him down. Let's see I need the sports science show to make show the trajectory if his body isn't yanked back in tandem with the ball. I think he could have got a foot in, but anyway, there was a lot of PI stuff going on last night, just like Miami's used to with the Fiesta Bowl. With this one, I said yesterday, I think whoever wins this game is going to win it all. I don't know if I necessarily even believe that anymore, because Miami is good. Really, really good, and they are awfully battle tested. But I do think this is going to be a great game, and I think Oregon has a real chance. I do. I know what Indiana just did to Alabama, and no one should take anything away from Indiana ever again, right? But Alabama also, they kind of did fade down the stretch, and I was awfully impressed with what Oregon did against Texas Tech, because they played, I still think, the best defense out there, and had their struggles with the defense, but their defense was excellent, and they eventually broke through. And I do believe in the whole thing about it's hard to beat a team twice.
Yeah, I mean,
it happens.
Indiana feels so much like a machine. Like, it's just, I've seen a bunch of Kurt Signetti stuff this week and his approach and all these things, and they have been able to answer the bell every time. Oregon, it's a really fascinating quarterback matchup because you got Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza. I mean, you could potentially be talking about, top 2 picks in the draft when it comes to that. I'm really interested to see how Oregon's defense stacks up against that offense. I mean, Oregon's defense looked great last time we saw them, right? How much of that was them? How much of that was Texas Tech and just the quarterback absolutely not being able to do anything out there? I don't know. We're going to find out, I think, tonight. But, I mean, Indiana, they just absolutely punked Alabama. And I realize that the Alabama team that we have seen the last couple of years is not Nick Saban's Alabama team. I understand that. We've talked about that, of like the mystique around Alabama is gone. Having said that, you still don't see them just get absolutely destroyed the way that they did last time out against Indiana. So, right. I mean, at this point, Joe, it's hard for me to believe that somebody's going to beat Indiana until I see them do it. And that's still an incredibly insane sentence for me to utter when it comes to the college football part of this. But after having watched them do what they did to Ohio State, and look, maybe Ohio State wasn't as good as maybe we thought heading into all this. After watching them steamroll Alabama, I just my expectation is tonight. I mean, I think Oregon will hang in there. I think it'll be a good game, and I think Indiana probably pull away late and win. I mean, that's just my expectation heading into this.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because we haven't figured out what we're going to do for Pigskin Pick'em, but I'm sure this one will be part of it. But
Oh yeah,
I don't know why I would have any misgivings about Indiana continuing to win and just winning the whole thing after the way they played last time out and the way they played all year. For some reason, I feel like Oregon has a real chance here. This is also interesting, of course, because it's likely, I guess, the top two quarterbacks. I mean, I guess that's the way things are shaking out in analyst world right now.
Yeah.
Is you're seeing a lot of mock drafts with one or the other as number one overall pick and one or the other as number two overall pick, which to me is just like that's a big red flag for the quarterback year in the draft. But that's how it goes. So if Dante Moore is great tonight and his team beats Fernando Mendoza, does he win the number one overall pick?
I don't know.
I mean, I still like I can't. He's really good and he has the potential to be a really good player. But man, it's hard for me to think that he's a number one or number two pick in the draft already. But that's just how things go.
So we will see. Yeah, we'll see on that front tonight what happens. Speaking of quarterbacks, what do you make of the Sam Leavitt situation at Tennessee? You think Austin Price put it out there yesterday that he was extending his stay with the Vols? So another day added to it with Sam Leavitt. Obviously, I mean, you start looking around the rest of the portal right now, Joe, and there just aren't a whole lot of quarterbacks left, particularly at the starting level, that are going to make something happen. So, I mean, at this point, to me, it kind of feels like it's going to be Sam Leavitt, or I don't know what the next step is for Tennessee. What do you make of the latest info we have on Tennessee and a potential signing of Sam Leavitt to be their quarterback next year?
Well, as Adam Sparks, talked about yesterday, obviously Oregon is the team to be worried about. With if Moore leaves, Leavitt's from Oregon. Is that his perfect scenario? Does he prefer that offense to Tennessee's? I mean, some of that is just stuff that we don't know, and that could be big factors. But then another factor here is now apparently DeMond Williams is going back to Washington.
Yeah.
So whatever the heck happened there, including like what he and his agent parted ways, but then apparently Cordell Landers was involved in some way. And this is the guy who was involved in the Nico move from Tennessee, or the Nico departure from Tennessee, although Cordell Landers went on the internet and called people names and said he wasn't involved. But regardless, all that crap happened, and DeMond Williams going back to Washington. So now you, I guess, put Lane Kiffin back in the discussion, although I think it's hilarious to think of Lane Kiffin be like, Sam, hey man, yeah, no. I mean, we were big on you the whole time. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Leavitt was with him at a basketball game. All this stuff broke, and it was basically like, oh, okay, so LSU's getting DeMond Williams, and so now they're not. Does Sam Leavitt give them the time of day still?
I don't know.
I don't know. Lane Kiffin has, mysterious powers of persuasion. That's for sure. So is it 3 teams for him? I mean, he's gone and visited other teams too. To me, it would be, to me, it's the difference between playoffs and not. I know that's probably a little hot takey to just make it simplify it that much, but I think Sam Leavitt would be great at Tennessee. And I would really, the ceiling on next year's team would go up pretty significantly if they could get him. But I think we're going to have to know pretty soon, just like with Ty Simpson this week, right? We're going to know soon, and we did. He went to the NFL. I have to think this is awfully fast in terms of if he doesn't sign with the Vols, then I assume he's just waiting for Oregon.
Yeah, I would think so. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. More your thoughts on the college football playoff, on Sam Leavitt's potential interest at Tennessee. We'll continue the discussion on college football coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
here's what I tell people, and I've reminded myself of this every year. Tennessee is usually the most inactive team in the portal each of the past 3 or 4 years. Under Josh Heupel, a lot of teams get 20 to 30 guys. Josh Heupel usually gets like 8 to 10. And so I think they hope to get a little more than that this year. But that means they're going to get fewer guys on the front end, and they may get fewer guys on the back end. They're just not going to pull in as many guys as others do. And that's a roster building philosophy of Josh Heupel. He wants to lean a lot on high school kids still and developing them and seeing who pans out and then just cutting loose the ones that don't. That's another reason why you see, a number of guys that are like second-year guys that are hopping in the portal, and you thought, I never even saw him play much. Well, that's why. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's what's going on a lot with the roster.
That's Adam Sparks on the show yesterday from the Knoxville News Sentinel discussing the philosophy from Tennessee in the transfer portal. Joe, it's going to be interesting. Like, that has been the case. There is no doubt about it. Tennessee has not been overly active in the portal under Josh Heupel. We've talked about that before. Now, some of the additions that they've made have been impactful, right? Like, if you go back and look at over the last few years, they've made some impactful transfer portal additions. They have not made a ton of transfer portal additions. And one of the things we wondered about heading into this offseason was, would that change? Would they be more aggressive in the portal? Would they change their approach? And they do have some players that are now starting to come in and commit to them. So we'll see what that looks like as the process continues here. But what did you make of that when Sparks threw that out there yesterday? And how do you see that kind of playing out now as we're discussing the Sam Levitt stuff with Tennessee and just the roster that's currently in flux with the Vols?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a good thing to keep in mind. We've talked quite a few times about how this year needs to be different. I feel like they've been involved with a lot of people. They haven't still, maybe they haven't gotten as many, obviously, as you'd like. The safety's name eludes me, who they just lost out to NC State, but it seemed like that was that's one of those, again, you don't know everything that goes on or even their interest level. Sometimes a name is just, someone because they're more prominent, but maybe they like someone else better. I mean, especially when you have some of the Group 5 kids who end up being really good players. Every year we see it, right? We see players who weren't on other Power 4 teams, so who the heck knew who Trey Richardson was
right
a year ago? And he comes in for Vanderbilt and sets the world on fire. And by the way, that's a big loss for Vanderbilt.
Sure is.
Which apparently, I don't know, there was a bunch of stuff on social media with that about the pay and miscommunication or whatever. But it does. Look, it's a little disappointing right now with Tennessee. I know everything's so focused on the quarterback, and it should be. And that is another one I do want to throw out there is like, I don't know. What about you as a Tennessee fan? Donovan Raiola? Any
Dylan
interest?
Raiola?
I'm sorry. Yeah, Donovan would be a very out of shape center. Yeah, Dylan Raiola.
No thanks.
Okay. I think he's talented. I know the Patrick Mahomes haircut bothers people.
It bothers me.
Well, these kids aren't all gonna, have nice crew cuts. But I don't know. It's hard. Like with him, Nebraska's just bad. They just can't figure out how to be anything but mid at best. I do think he's talented, but that's still another one of those kind of taking a gamble on someone with talent but hasn't put it all together, as opposed to you do have some good young options. But anyway, the focus is on the quarterback. It is the biggest thing, but the Vols they need to get some guys on defense.
Yeah.
Jim Knowles, obviously accomplished defensive coordinator. Jim Knowles needs some Jimmies and Joes.
Well, and I think they got a DT from Penn State yesterday, but Jordan Ross hit the portal. You're looking at where they are at edge rusher right now, Joe. They need some help. They need some help at edge rusher. So that's probably everybody's going to focus in on corner and safety, and I understand all that. And I think they brought in a safety as well, but they need some help at edge rusher right now because look, Is Jordan Ross some like irreplaceable loss? I don't think so. He's obviously really talented, and I think he came in this year and took a step forward. You know, they've had some guys that are okay, but they're losing Joshua Josephs. Like, you know, it's a position that right now you're looking at how are they going to rush the passer, and if you can't rush the passer, that's going to be a big problem for your defense. So they're still, to me, in need of some pretty drastic help from the transfer portal on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, no question. And Ross is just one of those. It's just like one of those guys who I just assumed, okay, and now he's going to be able to take a step, and it's going to be his turn. And you got the new DC in here, and who knows what they could get out of him. I don't know. That one just seems like did they screw something up? You know, again, he's an example of someone who I'm sure there are other teams out there throwing money at guys like that. Like, you're going to come here, start, be a star, and we're paying you this, and they're only paying you this. You know, I'm just speculating, but that stuff does happen. But like, I just think he was one that I just would have assumed Tennessee would have prioritized retaining, because you got to have some continuity. And again, I think he's a talent. I think we're going to hear from him wherever he ends up. So, but yeah, you know, there are other edge rushers out there. They've got to make some serious noise from here.
They do. And if they don't land Levitt, you know, you're looking around the rest of the quarterback pool right now. And then, you know, it starts to get into that tier of, are you going to be better off rolling the dice with a McIntyre or a Faison Brandon and bringing in maybe a third guy as a safety net? Or are you going down the list of some of these quarterbacks that are in the portal, and you're hoping that you could strike lightning twice, like a la Joey Aguilar, like maybe somebody that you don't have a whole lot of expectation for from the outside heading into this, but you feel like fits your system really well. I mean, that's, to me, everybody I think would understand, like if Sam Levitt commits to you, it's like, okay, you're feeling pretty good about quarterback at that point. If it's not him, then I think you look down the rest of the available options right now, and you're starting to wonder, okay, would they just be better off going into this thing with a competition between the two young guys and having that third quarterback be a reliable veteran that if somebody goes down, you'd be okay putting in a game at that point?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And there is still, by the way, like, you know, Joey Aguilar, I think pretty soon here we're gonna hear about that. I mean, if that
it would have to be, got to be soon.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that would be, we were talking not long ago about, well, you know, if you can get a Levitt, if you can get a Simpson, then, you know, sorry, thanks, Joey, appreciate it. But obviously, if you could have him back for another year, that'd be great. Lagway is out of there. He just picked where? He just picked
Baylor.
the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Lagway just picked Baylor. I tell you, you know, this is sitting in a press box the other night at First Bank Stadium. I will say the Lamson kid for Montana State, who previously was at Syracuse and Stanford. I mean, just throwing it out there, like, man, I think he has another year, and I would not be surprised at all if you know, some people come after him. Is he a guy who's going to come in and you know, snap your fingers and, oh, he's clearly the best option, he's going to elevate Tennessee? I'm not saying that. You know, it's FCS football, but there's also guys from FCS who, especially who come from like the Montana and North Dakota schools every year, who are good, like really good football players. So there's a dark horse I'm throwing out there for you.
Well, and if they get through the end of this and they're either unwilling or unable to land a pretty significant amount of players in the portal, what would that tell you about Heupel and his approach? I mean, you know, I think a lot of fans obviously would look at that and be like, man, I don't know that you get it. I don't know that you quite understand the situation that you're in heading into all this. And look, some of it, this is going to happen in the portal. Sometimes you're going to have the intention to add either at a position or a specific player, and it just ain't going to work out, right? Like they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to get a better offer somewhere else, whatever the case may be. But like if you're Tennessee, one thing you're not going to convince the fan base of, particularly when you start talking about talent fees and the Adidas deal and the AD getting on Twitter barking back and forth with fan base, talking about the entertainment center. Like you're not gonna convince this fan base that you need to be outbid by anybody. I can guarantee you that.
Right. Yeah, and I did ask, like Adam yesterday, and he's like, yeah, like the money, money's not the problem. No, now is it? He also, the whole thing with Heupel being maybe moving too slow at times. I mean that it seems like maybe fair criticism. When we talk about like you hear about some guys, but then like spring football is where there's always a handful or more, right, of guys you hear about like, oh, this guy's ready now, right? So there is going to be some of that with Tennessee, right? There's going to be some guys who, and that's what Heupel wants, and that's the program he wants. So it won't, it's not going to be, I think, as drastic as it seems, even if they don't do as well. But they obviously have to do some work in there. And yeah, I don't think it helps that Danny White's. I mean, it's funny. Some of his tweets are funny, and it is also interesting that like somehow this has turned into like the Vols are choosing this entertainment district over talent. Like I don't think that's true, but it's just something that like the fan, some fans have kind of seized on. So I just know they need some more hits here. They need to show that they're serious. And I mean, Heupel understands the situation. CD with an interesting question on the text line, which you responded to. What's even the point of us recruiting these 5-star quarterbacks? And I get that sentiment. I do. Like we've talked about, I think if they were in a different situation this year, like had they gone to the playoff this year, whatever, things had worked out differently. I don't think there'd be necessarily as much urgency to have to get someone who's a little bit better than those guys or a little bit more experience. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there would be anyway. Because I agree. Like I agree in general with the idea. Like, yeah, you gotta like if you're gonna get these guys, like you have to expect some bumps somewhere along the way, right? It's just hard to always um just go portal for the QB. But at the same time, look at the schools that were in the Final Four right now. They're all transfer quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and it's just the trend is even though there's different ways to build teams, that's just kind of been. Will Howard comes out of Kansas and just leads Ohio State to the championship last year. Transfer portal quarterbacks leading a team to a championship this year. It's like it's kind of become a thing, whether you're more portal overall or more recruiting overall, the portal QB is kind of like a separate category.
It is. And look, clearly Tennessee's trying to get a quarterback, right? I mean, obviously. So, like, if you're McIntyre and Brandon, you see that. Like, George McIntyre is aware that Sam Levitt is around right now. So that's the other part of this too.
Exactly. And frankly, it may be as simple as, okay, well, we'll see who they get. If you're him in his camp, okay, we'll see who they get. If it is like a Levitt or something, then are you ready to move on? I don't know. It also depends on how like a McIntyre looks at himself in relation to Brandon, right? And like, is that going to be a hell of a competition, or is Brandon so good that in year 2 there's just no question he's a guy? I know some people think that, but how often are we wrong about 5-star quarterbacks? Happens all the time.
All the time. All the time. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get the latest info on the Titans coaching search coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans coaching search at 615-737-1025. Joe, you guys had Charles on the show yesterday. It was interesting to hear his thoughts on the Titans coaching search. And some other names have trickled out since then in connection to the Titans. Joe, we asked Kuharski about this the other day. And Mike McCarthy, we had not really heard his name in connection with the Titans to this point. And Kuharski talked about, maybe not having it as solidly as he would like, but how he didn't necessarily think that McCarthy Brinker automatically would lead to an interview for McCarthy. Well, he is going to be interviewed by the Titans. I believe January 17th will be the date. So that is a week from tomorrow. Mike McCarthy apparently going to be interviewed by the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, some other names have shaken free. I mean, Mike McDaniel gets fired yesterday, so he's out there, and we'll get into what that could potentially mean coming up here in just a few minutes as it relates to more so with him, I would say the offensive coordinator part of it, maybe than the head coach, but we'll see what happens on that front. Jeff Hafley, who is the Packers defensive coordinator that we've talked about, has been linked to the Tennessee Titans as well, and then Robert Saleh. So, Joe, there's like, what are we, 13, 14 names deep at this point on the list of candidates for the Tennessee Titans. Your thoughts on the latest developments and the names connected to the Titans yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, the McCarthy thing's strange, because obviously it's like that could have been just a gimme, that you get all ready to go, before you have to go through some of the things you go through to get other people interviews. Then it looks like it's a late ad. I mean, obviously it's all happening this week, but then Karski tells us the other day that I guess maybe the Brinker-McCarthy relationship wasn't great. I don't know. What exactly did Kuharski say?
Well, it just wasn't. It wasn't automatic. Like, I think a lot of people just assume that, well, yeah, they work together. So that means that McCarthy's absolutely going to be of interest out there. And Kuharski's point, I think, was, look, they work together. I don't think that necessarily means that they were all that close from a relational standpoint.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so maybe I took it too far. Maybe I took it too far because apparently this has turned into some big Twitter battle.
He actually texted me. He was like, "Hey, send me my comments. What I said about McCarthy. People are taking me out of context."
Do you have it? I actually wouldn't
give me
mind
just a
hearing
sec.
it.
Yeah, let me just grab it.
Because then it became this big thing. I don't know, Kuharski and TD and this Tic Tac Titans dude who somewhat scares me. And, I don't know. I don't know what's happening out there on these mean streets of X, but
okay, I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, let's hear that real fast. Sorry.
Well, speaking of Mike, let me ask you this, because we get asked about Mike McCarthy all the time, and I've not really seen any sort of connection from the Titans to Mike McCarthy at this point. At this point, do you just have to assume that that's not happening here with the Titans?
I have heard that he is not interested, and I have some reason to believe that the Brinker McCarthy relationship is not one that would lead the Titans to hire him, but I don't have that as firmly as I'd like.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that. People just made that natural assumption that because they've been in the same
two guys
building,
work together,
right?
and they automatically want to
liked
each
other and worked each other. And
sometimes it's actually quite the opposite.
The opposite, yeah. So I know McCarthy. We talked about the Giants job earlier. Everybody's in connection with the Giants job. It's like, McCarthy, he might get hired to coach the Giants. So
that's four.
Yeah,
we're giving him four.
A lot of coaches going to the Giants. Let's hit our phone line.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So okay. So let me. You guys help me because I cannot keep up with all of his freaking tweets. So has he walked back that at all? Walked that back at all, or is that's because that sounds like there could be a little bit of I don't know, not great relationship.
Well, I guess the interesting part to me, and not that it necessarily means anything, but it's all these interviews the Titans are conducting are taking place now. And then his is scheduled for January the 17th. I mean, look, I know the wild card round will be over with at that point, and you're moving on to the divisional round and all those things. But like, if they were that interested in McCarthy and he was that interested in them, they've had, weeks and weeks.
Right.
It's not like they needed permission to talk to Mike McCarthy, right? Like, so
Yeah.
like that's the part of it where I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I just don't know how real the interest is from both sides when it comes down to that.
So why bother then?
I don't
why,
know.
Then
Yeah,
why throw them into the mix of 27 interviews you're already doing?
Cast that wide net, Joe.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, I do think that if there's not something that can't be overcome, again, if it's just like whatever, they didn't really have a relationship. That's not all that. I mean, like the coaches of these teams aren't going to have relationships with every single personnel guy. There's a whole bunch of people in those personnel departments. If it's just that, then okay, whatever, right? I think
also, like, if you believe the Titans, does his relationship with Brinker really matter all that much? Like, if you believe what the Titans are telling you, that Borgonzi's in charge of the 53, like Borgonzi's a general manager in the traditional sense. Like, I know Brinker is going to be there, but like, Brinker is doing salary cap stuff if you believe the stuff that the Titans put out there. So like, how much does his relationship with Brinker even matter would be my question.
Well, I totally agree. Now, if it's a little more, Brinker has misgivings based on what he saw, or he's skeptical that McCarthy would be good at this point. Okay, I mean, he certainly could have some insight, right? Even between all the different people who have worked with both guys. That would make more sense to me. But overall, again, say what you will about Mike McCarthy. I know some Titans fans are completely out on the idea. The guy won a lot. He won a lot beyond winning the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers in 2010. He has had a lot of success with quarterback play, with offensive play, and with winning football games in the NFL. To me, if you were to hire a Mike McCarthy, that is a very high floor hire for the Titans. Whereas obviously you'd love to find the next young coach who becomes your Mike McDonald, your Liam Cohen, your Ben Johnson, but you tried that the last time, and it's a very high, it's a no-brainer interview to me, unless there's something weird.
Oh yeah, like he should absolutely be on the list of interviews. And what is his interest level? I think a lot of that probably depends on the quarterback. We've talked about that before. But like McCarthy, unlike some of these other guys, like when you're interviewing coordinators that are busy coaching other teams, like if McCarthy has been angling to get back in the game, I would assume he has had some time to do a pretty good amount of research on all these jobs that either could have been open or in the Titans case have been open for months at this point. So like I would assume he's got a pretty good idea from a quarterback standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, all those things of what he's looking for if he's that serious about getting back in the game.
Right. Certainly on his side of things, he's been able to watch closely, and just like everybody else, he's also watching as, now here comes John Harbaugh, and now here comes Miami open, and like the picture keeps changing. But yeah, obviously you'd love to know what his ranking of these open jobs would be. I do feel like going around the league, there are some people who cover the NFL who think, have the Titans higher on their list than maybe I would expect, relative to some of these other teams. But again, just like Charles said yesterday, it's like this is purely it's each individual and beauty in the eye of the beholder, and pretty much about Cam.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will continue the discussion on the Titans head coaching search, plus another factor in this search that there could be some pretty good options out there for the Titans with. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Friday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode later this hour. Teron Davenport coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Titans coaching search with him. Pigskin Pick'em at 8:30 today on the program as well. We got Indiana, Oregon coming up tonight in the college football playoff semifinal. The winner will take on Miami in the national championship game, and it is wild card weekend in the NFL as well. So a lot going on in the show today. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Joe, we've talked a lot about head coaching possibilities for the Tennessee Titans. There are also, in addition to the large number of head coaching possibilities that are out there, pretty interesting options at offensive coordinator as well, and including, I think, a lot of people's dream pairing. I've heard Herndon talk about this a few months ago. I think you've talked about this some. I mean, Mike McDaniel is now out down in Miami. Robert Saleh, the Saleh-McDaniel duo that we've talked about before, of maybe bringing in Saleh as head coach, McDaniel as offensive coordinator, technically now on the table for the Titans and other teams. Joe, what do you make of that and the offensive minds that are out there in terms of, if they're not head coaches, maybe on the list for the Titans to be an offensive coordinator?
Yeah, well, you start there, and this is where I need to try to check my bias and be sure, because look, let's be honest. We want Mike McDaniel this time because he's freaking hilarious, and like it wouldn't matter who the head coach is. Like, this would be like must see presser every week. I think he's freaking hilarious. But seriously, I think he is one of the best offensive minds in football. I really do. And I think he failed as a head coach, and I don't doubt that some of that goes on him. I think for the most part he seemed to handle things pretty well. Some of the stuff with Tua that maybe he would do things differently, but I think Tua, like, it's just difficult, right? Yeah. And so I mostly don't. I guess my question would be: is there a team out there who still would have a lot of understanding for how that all went down and be like, actually, I still think he can be a head coach? My guess is he's probably going to be an OC next year. And I know Detroit has reached out to him. I think that's brilliant of Detroit. I mean, with their skill and especially what he does with the running game. Yeah, that was a big draw for Liam Cohen, right? Is like what he did in Tampa with the Bucks and the running game. And I think that's another thing with the run concepts with Mike McDaniel. No question that I just think he's like legitimately one of those guys who's ahead of the curve schematically. And I think it would be a slam dunk. So, but Detroit's in there. A lot of teams are going to be in there, right? If it's that, then you get into, is there a head coach pairing? I'm not saying you hire a head coach that would get you Mike McDaniel. I'm not saying that. But I am saying, like, if you talk to a Saleh, and obviously those guys have a past, like, if that's something that like Saleh's all into, and those guys all talk to each other. Yeah, man, to me that just makes Saleh more attractive as a potential head coach. He's already, well, he was number one on my list. I did say yesterday that I've switched to Stefanski as my number one. Okay, but I will also now flip flop and just keep waffling like a politician and say that if it's Saleh McDaniel, then okay, that's my number one.
Well, part of it, and Mike Morganzi talked about this in his media availability the other day. Like, all these guys come into the interview and they're ready for the interview, right? Like, they are prepared for the questions that they're going to be asked on the interview. And one of the first things you start talking about is, like, if you're hired, what's the type of staff that you can put together? And then it's your job as a general manager and as decision makers in the organization to really evaluate, all right, that's great. His staff that he's thrown together on paper or in his head sounds awesome. How realistic is it that he's able to actually get those people, right? Because a lot of people you're dealing with could be under contract. I mean, it's just a whole mess. I mean, I would, if it's Saleh, I would at least feel good about how there's a connection there between Saleh and McDaniel. And that doesn't necessarily guarantee that he would come with Saleh at that point, but there's at least a demonstrated working relationship there where you would assume those two, and by all accounts, those two do get along pretty well. So, like, I think you feel better about something like that if you're Borgonzi trying to sift through, like, what's realistic in terms of these candidates and the staff building that they're able to throw out there rather than what's just sounds good in a job interview.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's where it's interesting. It's like, again, these guys talk to each other. So, but at the same time, they all have to go and talk to different people and figure out what's better. They all have so many different questions about these potential jobs, these potential employers, the front office, the ownership, obviously the quarterback and the roster and things like that. So yeah, like, I guess it's like, if you're like Saleh in an interview with the Titans, do you say, yeah, I mean, Mike and I've talked, like, I think I can get Mike,
You probably do if you feel that way.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, can we FaceTime him right now? Can we get some confirmation of this? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe some people disagree with me. I know when a head coach fails at a place, and I know some people look at him and be like, oh, that nerd, he can't coach football. Man, I think he's legitimately one of the guys right now who's in front of people, and everybody copies each other, and people have stretches of time, and then maybe they fall back. Chip Kelly, but I think he would be a slam dunk, and I just think he's a really smart guy. I'm trying to think of other. I mean, he's going to have, again, he could be very intrigued and be like, yes, Goff and St. Brown and those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you guys can fix your offensive line, we'll score 35 a game next year. It may just be as simple as that. Like, give me the best personnel situation. If that's what it is, then, he's not going to compare the Titans favorably to that. But how much does the relationship matter? How much does it matter? I don't know Dan Campbell from anybody else, but I know Saleh, and that's a solid relationship, and that matters. I mean, how much do things like this matter compared to other things?
Yeah, and it's not just McDaniel. I mean, we've talked about Kingsbury. Like, I would be pretty stunned if Cliff Kingsbury gets a job as a head coach this cycle.
Yep.
He's clearly not going back to Washington. So, as an offensive coordinator, I mean, this would depend on who you hire. I don't know how many of these coaches out there have a relationship with Cliff Kingsbury to the point where they would be like, yeah, come bring him in as our offensive coordinator. And also, like, we have seen, Joe, like, you don't necessarily need a pre-existing relationship with the person for them to be your offensive coordinator. Like, I understand it was a different situation, but Vrabel did not have a pre-existing relationship with Matt LaFleur when he named him the offensive coordinator. It just kind of happened that way. So doesn't
he didn't
necessarily
have a post-existing relationship with him either.
Yeah, he didn't. So no pre, no post.
Get out of here, nerd.
We'll see you later, dude. So like, it doesn't necessarily even have to be somebody that's closely connected to Kingsbury for them to hire Kingsbury, but there are other names out there too on the offensive coordinator front that are intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, Dayball is
Dayball. Yep.
A guy who's, I just, with him, it's just, I don't know, man. I feel like he is just a little bit too much of a hothead, it just based on how some things went down with him and his coordinators with New York. That's just a big personality you're bringing in. Is it worth what he brings, to the job? Maybe it is. I mean, I think he's good. Certainly wouldn't dismiss it. And obviously there's a lot of young guys. I mean, Skylar points out, Saleh having ties with Shanahan tree makes me feel good. Even if we can't get McDaniel, he can always take a piece from under Shanahan for OC. We talked about Mike LaFleur yesterday.
Yeah.
The whole Rams OC thing where it's like, okay, now it's time to go to a place where you can call plays, and that could work out well too. I'll also say, technically, isn't Brian Callahan part of that tree?
Technically,
I guess it's like down the branches a little bit, but that did not work out well.
Do you want him as
in
OC?
In case anybody forgot. Well, there'd be familiarity. Imagine if that happened.
Would you have to pay him as OC?
Yeah, he can
They're
just
already
be
paying him as head coach.
That's a good point. Like, just, okay, man, you can be the OC, and like, you're just going to continue to get your pay that we already had to pay you. Is that cool? Actually, he'd probably take it if it's between that and being like a quality control coach in Cincinnati. I don't know. I assume that's where he'll reemerge, right?
That would be my guess on where he'll reemerge, but I guess I could be wrong on that front. What's going to be interesting is, like, does Bill Callahan reemerge?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting.
I would assume yes, but I don't know that.
Yeah, well, and I wonder if that's where it's like, which of course it's so funny because it was the biggest thing in the world. It's like the best thing about hiring Brian Callahan is we know who the O-line coach is going to be, right?
Yeah.
Although remember it was all this stuff about like somehow he was going to stay in Cleveland. Is that a package deal now? Is it Brian?
Who's your daddy, and what does he do?
Like does Bill Callahan basically like, I will keep coaching if you will also hire my son? And does someone think enough of Bill Callahan to be like, yeah, we'll take Brian on as assistant QB coach to get Bill Callahan as our O-line coach? Hell yes. I bet you that's the only way we see Bill Callahan coaching anymore in this league is if he is part of the same staff as Brian.
That's an interesting thought. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll continue the conversation on the Titans head coaching search coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Well, I was texting with Mike McDaniel a little bit ago, and I can tell you that he definitely came out of this shocked and I would say saddened, but quickly kind of turned the page to where he's pretty fired up about whatever's coming next. Said that he feels like he got a shot of steroids to his football mind. Very Mike McDaniel thing to say, in the sense that he just feels ready. He said it's on. And I think that the question then becomes, are we looking at potential head coaching vacancies? Cleveland Browns reportedly interested in potential bringing him in. But then obviously there's going to be a lot of teams that are looking at him as a potential offensive coordinator.
That's Jeff Darlington from ESPN discussing Mike McDaniel, who was fired by the Miami Dolphins yesterday. By the way, how about working for that owner? Just he kind of is all over the place. Stephen Ross, my goodness. There's got to be a little part of Mike McDaniel that's like, I mean, obviously I don't want to get fired, but kind of glad to be away from Stephen Ross.
Oh yeah. No, he is he's high on that list of buyer beware when you with all the stuff that's gone on with him. Now it's an interesting thing with McDaniel in Cleveland. Like I said, somebody could tuck themselves into him as a head coach. I'm suspecting he has to be an OC, but we'll see. There's a lot of openings.
Would you consider him for head coach for the Titans?
Yeah, that's what's interesting too. It's like, is it like showing? Even if you aren't, is that what you do? You interview him as a head coach?
Maybe.
Because you're showing that respect that you would consider that, and then you're hoping that he might end up being your OC?
Well, look, there are some candidates out there that, like, I understand you can't operate this way. But if you just want to go by record, right, like record as a head coach, there are some candidates out there that they are interviewing that are clearly not as accomplished as he is as a head coach, right? Like, I mean, look, it's not like he lit the world on fire in Miami, but he was 35-33 as head coach with the Dolphins. That's over 500. It's not anything spectacular. It's not like they had any sort of postseason success to speak of. I understand all that. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, he's got a better record than Robert Saleh had. I understand Saleh was with the Jets. Yeah. He's got a better record than Arthur Smith had at Atlanta. I understand the situation there. I'm just saying, like, I think some people would look at the idea of interviewing Mike McDaniel as head coach and be like, are you crazy? Why would you do that? And then in the same breath, you're looking at some of these other coaches who are getting interviews who are worse head coaches than him by the number.
Yeah, no, it's a very fair point, especially considering his QB situation. Skylar Thompson and Snoop and all these different people he's had to put under center. And Tua, Tua's a huge disappointment. And it's not Tua's fault that he has all the injury issues, but even without the injuries. Now, I guess then you say, okay, well, why couldn't Mike McDaniel get more out of Tua with all his talent? So you could go around. But you're right. In general, the idea that that's just a non-starter. I really think some of it is like, look at Saleh. That dude could kick your ass. He's 6'5", 250, and he's a football guy. It's Mike McDaniel. He should be in the back with the analytics people, I mean,
he looks like he should have been cast in Oppenheimer working on the bomb. Yeah.
Right.
Like it's
but no, he obviously can tie his shoes, and as a head coach could keep some things together and did all right. So yeah, that's interesting. Like, and even if you're him, maybe, who knows? I mean, there are some coaches that are like, you know what? I think I'd like a couple of years of just like designing offense, and I got half the team calling plays, and then let's see if there's not a head coaching job that he loves, because Darlington sitting there talking about Cleveland.
Yeah.
But I got to think a lot of people are looking at Cleveland also with like a little side eye, and like, I don't know, man, with ownership and all that stuff there too. So it's a really interesting situation. But to me, if I'm a franchise out there, I'd want some kind of conversation with Mike McDaniel right now, and have him involved in some way, because I think he's one of the good, strong minds in football right now.
I agree. I mean, like I said, we're at the point of the coaching search, Joe, where they're 13, 14 names deep at this point. And I think more clarity will be had this weekend from the standpoint of, all right, the wild card games are coming up. What happens in these games? Like, so what happens if Green Bay loses to Chicago. I think LaFleur's okay, but I don't know that. What happens if Buffalo loses to Jacksonville? What do they do with Sean McDermott? If they fire Sean McDermott, what does that mean for John Harbaugh? Because that'd be a pretty attractive job to me if I'm John Harbaugh. So if he takes that job, how does that affect the rest of the coaching pool? I mean, you're already, I think 8 jobs are open. So that's 8 of 32 teams. A quarter of the league has a job open right now. So you're dealing with a pretty extensive pool of candidates anyway. I think we're going to find out some more clarity this weekend of, are there more jobs that are going to be added to that list, or is this capped at what it's going to be? And there are 8 jobs open. And I didn't even bring up like the Tomlin situation in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And Charles pointed out yesterday, I mean, Charles, I think, is kind of thinking along the lines you're thinking, which is LaFleur's probably going to be back.
Yeah.
Whether he gets an extension or not, he's probably going to be back next year. But McDermott, and this is a stat I didn't know until Charles brought it up on our show, but if they lose to the Jags, he's going to be 0-6 in the playoffs on the road.
Yeah.
And yes, one of those was the ridiculous Mahomes comeback, but that's still a defensive failing, by the way. I mean, I think that could really lead to something. And then you talk about more than a quarter of the jobs in this league open. Speaking of Harbaugh, by the way, so our Ian O'Connor at The Athletic, he's New York based, very heavily, writes a lot about the New York teams. And then Dan Dugan, who covers the Giants for us, they obviously the Giants are all over Harbaugh, right?
Yeah.
O'Connor put Titans as his second most likely landing spot. Now, again, I don't know. And Dugan said that's the one that, and he sort of followed up and said that's the one people are sleeping on that, but you shouldn't sleep on it, which I thought was interesting. I mean, again, I don't see an interview happening with him right now. So, I mean, unless that were to be, but Harbaugh is also holding off right now. So I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. And I'm like, where does that come from? Is that just speculation, or is that, is there something that someone told someone that maybe, again, maybe Harbaugh loves Cam Ward and country music. I don't know.
Well, it could be. Also, like, one thing I'm wondering is he going to have to be the first domino that drops in this? Like, are people going to be waiting on like where he goes to then reevaluate what all the other jobs look like? I mean, look, I don't know. Like, if you're Cleveland, are you waiting on John Harbaugh? Probably not, right?
Right.
Like, if
Some
you're
of them
Arizona, you're probably not waiting on John Harbaugh.
Exactly. Some of them will go about their business, but yeah, I think with some of those jobs, I think for sure it's a fight for him, and whoever gets him, then you go to Stefanski, probably, at least with some teams. So, but are the Titans moving on? Are they just, we're not going to, he won't talk to it, whatever we're thinking about it, or are the Titans still hoping to get in there and get FaceTime with him?
Keith on the text line says, knowing the Titans with all these exciting names available, will end up hiring Mike McCoy or Jason Garrett. Which one would cause PK a bigger fit, Mike McCoy or Jason Garrett?
So I will say this, like, you made a good point on behalf of Mike McDaniel. And I think Mike McCarthy is another one that fans roll their eyes and groan, but it's like, well, hold on. Now I may have been a little tough on Jason Garrett, given, what he's done. I mean, he has, like, I have to give him, I think, some credit for Dak, right? Sure. Does he get some credit for that? The biggest problem I have with him is the time away.
Yeah, coach, it's 7 years.
It's a long time away, and I guess maybe I'm just also holding against him that he never tells me anything on TV that's remotely interesting. But like, still, like, what he's done, I mean, he's certainly a better candidate. Like Heath is putting Mike McCoy with him. I think he probably deserves a little bit more respect than that.
I would agree. Trevor on the text line says, if the Steelers get bounced, are they going to part ways with Tomlin? And there's another big name to go after at that point. I don't know.
That'd be wild.
Yeah, like I don't think so. But, like, look, what are they doing at quarterback, right? Like, is Will Howard in the back of their mind the answer moving forward? Probably not. Is Rodgers coming back for another year? My guess is if Rodgers is coming back for another year, that's probably entirely dependent upon Mike Tomlin being there, because he freaking loves Mike Tomlin. So I don't know. I guess that now that they've won the division and made the playoffs, it feels like that ship has sailed. But if you ask a Steelers fan, Joe, I mean, they make the playoffs all the time. When's the last time they did anything in the playoffs?
If it were up to the fans, I still think a lot of Steelers fans are ready. They're like, okay, see, the Ravens did it, and sometimes it's just time. Yeah, right? Like it's our time to do that too. And yeah, I do think that if the Texans come in there and just toss them around and hold them to 10 points, and then I think from the fan perspective, there will be a heavy sentiment of like, okay, let's be like the Ravens. Two great stable organizations that still understand that sometimes you just have to change voices. And if that's the case, like if that's how ownership actually feels,
right?
What a cycle. Like it's already one of the wildest cycles I can recall. But if you had Tomlin and Harbaugh on the same one, holy cow.
Yep. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. It is wild card weekend in the NFL. Which teams have the most to prove this weekend? We will get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up here in just a few minutes. TD will be with us at 8 o'clock. We will get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Joe, wildcard weekend in the NFL. We've got the Steelers taking on the Texans, Jacksonville hosting the Bills, the Patriots hosting the Chargers on the AFC side of things. In the NFC, the Panthers and the Rams, the Eagles and the 49ers, and the Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers on Saturday night. So, Joe, I'll throw this question at you. Who, it can be a team, it can be an individual, whichever way you want to take it. Who to you has the most to prove this weekend on Wild Card Weekend?
Well, I think I have to go with Josh Allen and the Bills, right? I look, people are rightfully to me looking at the AFC playoff picture and who's not part of it this year and saying, dude, you guys have got to go to the Super Bowl. So I think I think those two are the clear number one. And some people would separate them and say Josh Allen has played great in the playoffs. Now, he hasn't always played great, but overall, he has good playoff numbers and he's had some tremendous performances. So you can't, put it all on him or make this a referendum on like his career. But at the same time, people do that with Lamar Jackson. So, and Lamar Jackson has had some tremendous playoff performances too, and some stinkers. But most of his stinkers were earlier. I think Josh Allen and the Bills are the team that I would look at. There's obviously like you have a different kind of prove yourself, which is like Patriots and Broncos, like prove that you weren't just sort of like a emperor with no clothes this year, right? A little bit, especially the Patriots, I think, even though they're not the 1 seed, but like they did have an easy schedule. But the Broncos, the number 1 seed. So I think there's that, but also like I expect both of those teams to have more cracks at this later. And the Bills thing may be ending, as we've been talking about, like at least in terms of McDermott and a totally new regime in there with Josh Allen. So I think they're the easy number 1. I don't know that there's a close second.
I don't know if there's a close second either. I mean, there's different types of it. Like, Pittsburgh, obviously, it's been a while since they've won a playoff game and made a semi-deep run here. And we just talked about the Tomlin stuff. Like, that's its own kind of thing heading into all this. Like, I mean, look, LaFleur with the Packers. Like, I'm interested to see. They've got a ton of injuries, obviously, but they've got a decision to make coming up as to whether or not they're going to extend him. Like, if you lose this game, that ain't going to help you in those conversations. So I would add him to the list. I mean, the Rams did not – I don't know that there's necessarily pressure, but Stafford's career is winding down. Now, he may have just had the best year of his career, but he's not playing that much longer. So you've got an opportunity here with a team that's pretty loaded. You get what we think is a gift playing against the Panthers. You're a 10.5-point favorite in this game. You better not blow that. I mean, you're going on the road. You're going on the road across the country, so don't blow that this weekend and lose in the first round to the Panthers. So, like, I think there's plenty to prove this weekend. There are different types of it. I think, to your point, Allen and the Bills for sure have the most pressure. I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah, like the Rams like this week is like, you better not screw it up type pressure. And I look at the Eagles, and it's like it's a really interesting thing the way different people are looking at them right now. I could make the case with that defense. It's playoff time. Everybody's gonna be locked in. Put all the crap aside. In the regular season, when you have a team that's used to having deep runs and you have some of these personality clashes, and frankly, when you have A.J. Brown, like, you're going to have some turmoil and stuff, but I can see them locking in and going on another run. But if they don't, if it's like, if it was too much for them, all this stuff, you have to look at it and say, so like what happened this year with like Saquon Barkley after how amazing it was last year? Why? Yeah, and Jalen Hurts and just the offense. Why is it so clunky with really a lot of the same pieces? And just it's just that has got to be the most still like questioned, like head coach and coaching staff for the achievement they've had, right? Just because of how weird some of the stuff has gone on, and he's fired some people, and obviously missed some people he lost, but it's like, dude, they're the defending Super Bowl champs, and yet it doesn't feel like that at times. So I'm fascinated by the Eagles and how they come out, and whether they have a run in them or whether it's like, again, they got the ring last year anyway. But is this going to start to lead to, like, if they just come out and lose to the Niners at home, what kind of changes are we talking about in Philly?
Yeah, we got a vote in the Bills game the other way for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, we've talked about. He's played really well down the stretch here. Playoff time comes around. What is that going to look like? Like, has he turned a corner in his career, or is he just on a nice 8-game run right now where he's playing really well under a new coach? And we've seen that before with him playing really well under a new coach, and he was not able to sustain it. So playoffs against the Bills, you're at home against a defense that's been very hit or miss this year in Buffalo. We'll see what that looks like in this game. I think the over-under is 51.5 on that one. So they're expecting some points to be scored in that game. I do think, like, if Trevor Lawrence comes out there and plays really well in this game, that's more of a signal of, yeah, maybe he has taken that next step under Liam Cohen here.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that point in terms of if it goes bad, because remember, we were all, they figured it out. Doug Peterson has figured out Trevor Lawrence, and they beat the Chargers. And remember, the Titans gifted them a playoff spot that year in the first place. But that it just kind of goes back to, maybe not. It does look different to me this year. It does seem like he's taken another step, and that Liam Cohen has unlocked some things. But, yeah, if they come out and just get thumped by the Bills, then we're going to be talking about that again. Like, okay, great. So every once in a while, Trevor Lawrence can look better and they can have regular season success, but he's still a mid quarterback, and you're never going to, like, make a serious run with him. Whether that's true or not, that's what people will say.
I'll throw another one at you. Justin Herbert, I think we all recognize the physical ability that he has, the numbers that he's put up. He's obviously a very good quarterback. But, like, Herbert's always thrown around with, like, some of the elite guys in the league. It's like, well, at some point, don't you need to win a playoff game if you're Justin Herbert? And I get that they're the 7th seed, and I get that they've had a lot of injuries that they've had to sort through this year, particularly on the offensive line. But if they go out there again and lose again, and he's still without a playoff win, and at some point you're looking at him being like, okay, is he ever going to win in the playoffs?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that he has the built-in excuse this year. They have the built-in excuse this year. But yeah, no, I mean, he's certainly another quarterback who at some point, as each year goes, it builds and builds. And again, I think this is one where you and I differ on. I think he's got a real shot here to shut some people up and make a few plays that could make the difference. Because I do think the Chargers can hold the Patriots down in this game with their defense, but we'll see. But he's certainly another guy who, at some point, it's like, okay. And also and then you could take it to the bigger picture with just the Chargers.
Yeah.
Which is, as a child, I can tell you, like, we should have seen Dan Fouts in multiple Super Bowls, and we were robbed of that opportunity. But you go through the years with what they've had and what they've not done. They did get to the one Super Bowl and got crushed by the Niners. My gosh, who the heck was their quarterback? They had Butts running the ball, and was it Stan Humphries at quarterback for the freaking Chargers at that point? Like,
yep.
The one time they don't have a good quarterback, they make one Super Bowl, but the franchise history of failing in the postseason is actually amazing.
It really is when you factor in Fouts and Rivers and Tomlinson and
Breeze.
Herbert and Breeze and, like, all the names that they've had there. It's pretty incredible that they've never, like, put it together for 1 year to win a Super Bowl.
Stan Humphries, good God.
Yeah. A long time ago.
Could barely throw a football.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, how stunned are you going to be if the Panthers win this game? We've talked about the Saints game, like the Saints-Seahawks game from whenever that was, like 2010 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
That was crazy. This one to me would be pretty crazy.
That was
Carolina
crazy.
wins this game.
That was crazy, but, like, that was also, like, there were some elements of what was going to be a great defense, right? Yeah. And also, it's an amazing atmosphere. So this to me would be crazier for sure. And I hope we get a good game. But the Panthers actually winning, I mean, they really aren't a team worth being in. I mean, you should be screaming about the NFL playoff rules, the fact that they're even in the playoff, but
Well, they should be hosting.
But I digress. Well, that is, yes, we can agree with that. I guess the fact that they're hosting it at least makes it worth kind of glimpsing at tomorrow. Like, okay, you guys got it. The old 3:30 Saturday game. That's usually the AFC South's total domain, So congratulations,
the Rams
AFC South
earlier this year.
They did
31-28.
They did, yeah. I hope that's a game. I don't think it will be. I do think that all the other game. Well, I hope that's a game, and I hope that to me, unfortunate choice for the Monday night game is a game because I have my doubts. But the Steelers at home. The Steelers, you start playing some sticks really loud on the PA system, and you got that defense flying around, and maybe Rodgers can find some magic. But those two games to me both could be thumpings. I think the other four have a real I'll be disappointed if they're not good games. I guess the Eagles are 5.5-point favorites, but I still think the Niners can make a run at that.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Take your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Teron Davenport with us at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
You know what? I think I'm going to choose violence today. Nah, you better not lose this football game as I sit in the pool.
All these morons getting dumber or just louder.
So you come right in glazing Vrabel, huh? Just Vrabel glazing.
Here's a man that has touched the hem of Jesus.
I'm going to sound like I'm inside a toilet right now, probably, for one thing. So
You want to fight, Sonny? You want to fight? You come in here and play your music?
Hey, if you were a hot dog and you were starving, would you eat yourself?
Hey, man. You freaking jackass.
It is time for the Rex Rant, brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee. Heal from the inside out. Check them out at functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. Joseph, the floor is yours.
More tremendous sound bites that will live in infamy forever. That's good to know. So I'm going to rant about you.
Okay.
And Ryan from Chicago, because when we, as I told you guys on our text line, I said this on Sunday. I said, you guys are like, oh, this might be, I don't know, we might win. Oh, you might win. I'm in a tough game. I said on the text, on our text, I said, stop sandbagging. This better be pure bleep talk between you two for the next week. I mean, we get Bears Packers rips, and I like to rip the Bears too. In fact, Ian, do you have the sound? I keep sending you the sound of my friend Isaac. I mean, do you have that by chance bleeped out?
No, I don't think so.
I'm gonna doubt he's got that right now. Oh, no.
Well, Keyser had that in the system at some point, but all right, I am going to request that before the end of the show that we can play it. And if I'm
what's his name? Isaac?
Yeah, he's my yeah. I shouldn't say it. I mean, I'm not like close friends with him. He passed away of cancer, but he was one of the great fans and probably the best Detroit fan there was. And his hatred for the Bears was a beautiful thing. I can send it again, but regardless, I get in there and rip the Bears a little bit. But like all year long, you guys rip each other. You rip the Bears. He rips the Packers. And this week it's like, gee, it should be a good game. I don't know. I mean, what is happening here? Are you both afraid that your team's going to lose? Is that what it is? Are you afraid to put yourself out there and say to the world, like, we're going to kick your ass? I mean, this is time for trash talk. And also, are you doing a bet or not? I keep hearing from Corey Curtis, you painting your nails, but I haven't heard you accept the bet. I mean, what's going on there? Do you not have faith in your Packers?
I mean, first off, no. Their coach is Matt LaFleur. I've been trying to tell you guys this for years. So, no, I do not have faith in the Packers. Yeah, I mean, yes, I guess that bet has been agreed to. That bet was suggested without me present. But I think on Wednesday after the show, I agreed to it.
You did agree. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think it's happening.
Well, that's good.
Like if the Packers win, he's got a cheesehead coming for the next show. And then I get my nails painted at some point if the Bears win.
Yeah. Okay. So cheesehead for him. I mean, really.
I feel like I got by far the worst end of that deal.
Yeah. No, you did. Like I'm trying to think. It should be like cheesehead, but also you have to eat like a block of Limburger or something like that.
Yeah.
Not just the cheese. Anybody can do a cheesehead. Yeah. The painting the nails. And I did hear him say, so we're painting the nails Bears colors then? Is that?
I believe that is correct.
I did. Okay. So you're willing to like do that. You're willing to like come on the show it off on the
and then quickly get it off of there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if Ryan from Chicago is listening. Again, if Michelle's listening, again, I implore you to not be a Bears fan in your life. You can still support Ryan and not support his trash franchise that everybody in the world should hate. But that's a different story. It's great. I love the trash talk, and it's just where's his confidence? Okay, fine. You rip LaFleur, you're consistent with that. You have some doubts. How is he not confident? How is he not out here absolutely talking trash every day? It's kind of weak, man. This is the time to do it.
Well, I think if you're a Bears fan, there's history here that doesn't go well for you in the playoffs against the Packers. So we'll see what happens on that front. But
Ben Johnson,
I know,
Caleb Williams,
I know.
Come on,
I look. In all seriousness, I don't really know how the Packers are favored in this game. They are on the road. They're a 1.5 point favorite. So it's not like there's some heavy favorite, but like go look at they're missing their star tight end, their best pass rusher, who's one of the 5 best players probably in all of the league. Like I don't really know how they're favored in this game, but apparently they are.
Yeah, because basically what that's saying is, and again, I don't know if that means, I don't know, has the money moved it that way, or has it basically been
No, they've
about
been the
there all
favorite
week?
from the start. Yeah.
So that's basically Vegas saying they're 4.5, 5 points better.
I mean,
than the
Orlovsky
Bears.
hopped on ESPN yesterday and said, quote, "I think the Packers win and the Packers win handily." That's what Orlovsky said. Friend of the show.
It's interesting. I will say, because I watched the last 2 Bears games, the Niners game and the Lions game, and I think their D stinks. I know the Lions game wasn't high scoring, but their D, like, they couldn't stop. They got a couple red zone stops, and a field goal miss, but like their D in the last 2 games is just basically just been dragged up and down the field. So I think that's where your guy who has had success in the playoffs should have the edge over his counterpart, even though they don't play against each other like that. That's probably where it comes from. But I'm with you. I mean, the injuries are rough, and the Packers defense totally changes when you take out Parsons.
I'm interested to see how it goes. I mean, like, of the games this weekend, I mean, they've already played each other twice. They've both been really good games. So my guess is it's probably going to be another really good game, right? Like, it's probably going to come down to the wire. Both of them did at this point. I don't know if it's going to be the best game of the weekend. Like, I think Buffalo, Jacksonville has a chance to be really good. I think San Francisco, Philadelphia has a chance to be really good. So I don't know the Bears Packers will be the best game of the weekend, but the 2 that they played so far this year have been really darn good games. So I would expect the third one to be the same.
Okay, sub-rant, YouTube chat. K-Dot says, painted nails, and that's not a punishment. I have mine painted currently. And then he says, manicures feel great. Sue me. Okay, so Katie and Caroline got me to do, I think I've talked about this, got me to a pedicure one time, and it was an awful, horrific experience.
Yeah.
Pain and tickling on my feet and scrubbing. I was like, never again. I've never had a manicure, but is that what a manicure is? You get your nails painted with a manicure?
Oh, I'm sure that may be part of it. But like, my wife's been begging me to get a pedicure for years, and I just will not do it. I don't really like the idea of other people touching my feet, just to be frank with you.
I think I have a
It's
foot
awful.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we went through a large period of time early in the show's history where there were some listeners that were pretty obsessed with your feet.
That is true. I forgot about please remind me. Please remind me.
Well, there was Heidi and Dixon.
Heidi from Dixon. Heidi from Dixon had a not just a foot fetish, a foot Rex fetish.
Which I think we later found out Heidi from Dixon wasn't a real person. It was actually some dude that was in like jail somewhere. So there's also that.
Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
It was someone who was actually incarcerated?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, man.
Hey, we are all about our incarcerated friends listening to the show too.
Absolutely. And if the thought of my glistening feet got you through a day, you know what? Then that's what they're here for. Okay.
Didn't expect the Rex rant to go this way.
Wow.
Back into the foot fetish.
All of a sudden, Rex Ryan is turning his radio up in the car. Whoa, what?
Wait a minute.
Here?
I mean, Rex Ryan, where's he at? He lives in Nolensville, doesn't he?
He does. He's down my way. Absolutely. So we got a lot of celebs and foot lovers down here. Oh God.
Celebs, foot lovers, we got everything you need down here.
Yeah. So, so a manicure, I guess I'm not opposed to a manicure. I guess I chew my nails. I'm a nail chewer. So it'd probably be a lot of work, but I guess I didn't realize that there's a painting that's part of that. I assume that's optional.
You're asking the wrong person.
To me, well, if you lose, what you should do is you should insist that it's not just not just you putting some polish in your, like, you get a manicure out of it. I think that's fair. Yeah. Like if you have to paint your nails Bears colors, then it should be part of a manicure. Then you can tell us if a manicure is good. I've already told you a pedicure is gross and disgusting. Don't ever do it. Although if we ever get a sponsor who does pedicures, I would gladly
try it again.
Change my mind. Yes.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Teron Davenport will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the latest on the Titans coaching search. We'll have Pigskin Pick'em coming up at 8:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week. We head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Turon Davenport to the program from ESPN. Fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution. TD, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, man. I'm well. How are you guys?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. TD, it's a fun week, I guess, a busy week, a lot of coaching search conversation when it comes to who the Titans are in contact with. So what are maybe a couple of names that intrigue you the most that have been in connection to the Titans that are out there at the moment? And what do you make about kind of the wide net that it feels like the Titans are casting here?
Well, I think it's good that they are interviewing a variety of candidates. That's definitely the right way to go about doing it. There are multiple names that intrigue me. Obviously, Matt Nagy is the most likely. That's no breaking news or anything like that. But I would say this. A lot of people laughed at the Jason Garrett interview or just the request. I think that's a good one. And you got to kind of dial into the catalog and roll it back a little bit. And when you look at Jason Garrett, right, he's a former quarterback himself, right? And with him being a former quarterback, he played for North Turner, right? And North Turner, you look at the offense that he ran, a lot of play action, vertical concepts, because he got that from Ernie Zampese, who got that from Don Coryell. So I say all that to say that's a blended offense that I think matches well for Cam Ward's ability. So I don't think Jason Garrett is just some laughable candidate. That's intriguing to me because of that. But then you also look at Vance Joseph, and that's a very intriguing name for me just because of what he does defensively as far as being able to just make a quarterback feel pressured, and the Broncos, they lead the league in sacks. I mean, he has a lot to do with that. And we know that this team, they need somebody that could help them be able to rush the passer also. Not that Denard Wilson didn't do a good job. It's just Vance Joseph, I think, is one of the two best coordinators in the league.
So, well, first of all, you mentioned Eric Coryell, and my ears perk up. I mean, it's like again, Dan Fouts, Eric Coryell, some of the best football anybody ever could have watched. Let's stick with Garrett. What about the time away? There have been some coaches who have had extended breaks and got back into it. I always worry about that just because it's just this constant, it's a constant. If you're in the game, you're attuned to the personnel around the league. You're attuned to all the schematics and the copycatting and everything. And you're away. I know he's been on TV, but that's still a different perspective, and that's not being inside of it. So is that a concern for you, or do you think that can be overcome?
Man, you robbed my answer before I could answer it. I was going to say being on TV still helps them keep in tune. But you're right. I mean, there is a degree of separation that you have to get over. But to me, coaching is like riding a bike, man. You don't forget how to do it. So I think that's something that he would be okay with. Now, granted, look, man, folks, don't get in my timeline and call me crazy or stupid or anything like that. I'm just saying it's intriguing. I'm not saying that should be the answer. Right, it should be the guy. So let's make sure we have that clear. And the thing is, right, let's say they hire a young coach, whether it's Chris Shula, and they bring in an OC. You could have him as a pass game coordinator, you know what I mean? And he could kind of work his way through the realms to eventually be a head coach if that's what he wants to do. I think that's a good reason to interview him, to see where his head's at and see, okay, do you want to be an OC? Is that something that you could do, or a pass game coordinator if we hire someone young? Just like the Matt LaFleur interview.
TD, what do you make of Mike McDaniel, who looked like he was safe in Miami, and then all of a sudden he wasn't safe in Miami? And I know Cleveland's reached out to him about potentially being an interview and a candidate there. But either the idea of interviewing him as a head coaching candidate here, or, as I've seen you and others throw out, like if Saleh gets hired here to be the head coach, that Saleh-McDaniel combo from head coach, offensive coordinator, I think intrigues a lot of Titans fans.
Yeah, that's Saleh. He and Robert Saleh, it's like, when you go to the mall and you get a short set, that's it right there. You know what I mean? You get a matching pair. And I think that's something that if they were to hire Robert Saleh, they need to immediately, well, he needs to immediately tell Mike McDaniel he has a job. I'm sure they've already discussed it. If that were to be the case, for him to get the job. So it's a pairing that I think has to happen, if he gets the job.
Well, how much more, I guess, attractive is Robert Saleh as a head coaching candidate if that's the pairing? If he can get Mike McDaniel to come with him. I mean, does that change just how you look at Saleh just on his own if he's with him?
If you look at them together, it's a lot more intriguing. But I'm sure Robert Saleh has ties to somebody in the building in San Francisco that could, which in turn has ties to Kyle Shanahan. So to me, if you're looking at the two candidates, Robert Saleh to me fits the mold that they want: a culture setter, a leader. You know what I mean? A presence that they need in order to turn this organization around. So to me, the difference between the two is that, but also it's not like Robert Saleh is any slouch on his side of the ball also.
TD, what most stood out to you from Mike Borgonzi's press conference earlier this week?
Good question. I'll say what stood out to me the most was the insistence on not allowing his Chiefs bias to have a heavy influence on this decision. He said that obviously you lean on what you're familiar with, but he said they're going to canvass all of the candidates, asking players, asking, different sources and things like that, to get familiar with these candidates. And just the fact that, he was like, he's not going to let that get in the way of choosing the right candidate. I think that stood out to me. But there were a few things, but that was probably the biggest. I do like the way he mentioned, how important it is to make sure this candidate is someone that can, bring the best out of Cam Ward. He went out of his way to praise Jeffrey Simmons. This organization, they seem to be pretty happy with him, because even Mike McCoy, when he talked, these guys, they're happy with what Jeffrey Simmons did this year.
Okay, to another Mike McCarthy. So you were mentioning people getting your mentions, TD. I don't know. PK said something on our show, and someone got after him on social media. I saw you were involved somewhat with this guy who kind of freaks me out, actually. But what is your understanding of McCarthy? I guess the seriousness of the interest and the Brinker, whether the Brinker pass is a good thing, bad thing, or an indifferent thing when it comes to him, the Titans being interested in McCarthy.
Yeah, you know what? First and foremost, listen, I apologize for jumping in the mud. I never should have done that. I should have left that alone. That was my first day having some time, and I made some bad decisions by replying to things on there that I normally wouldn't. So get that out of the way. The Mike McCarthy thing, and PK, just being the excellent reporter that he is, he shared some context. And I think, this was a situation where apparently the context wasn't understood. Like, he wasn't saying it concrete. Sometimes we know some things, aren't sure about it, and we'll insinuate something and give something that gives some background, and it's taken out of context. So that's the word of the day, folks, context. Now, when you look at Mike McCarthy, though, obviously he's got the experience, which I know they like. He has the leadership qualities, which he's shown. I know the end was rocky, but the fact of the matter is, regardless of whether he and Chad Brinker, go out and have lunch together, that's not important. What's important, and I know what Chad Brinker is about, the Packer way, right? And that's something that he believes in. It's something that he grew up in. It's something that he cut his teeth in. And so he knows that Mike McCarthy, having been there, is very much the Packer way. So regardless of personal friendships or anything like that, that's the intrigue, in my opinion, to Mike McCarthy for the Titans.
TD, you mentioned some of the younger candidates that are out there that haven't been head coaches before, which to me, look, I'm all for. I understand the last guy that you hired didn't work out and he didn't have previous head coaching experience. I think a lot of this fan base wants somebody in here who has previous head coaching experience, and I understand that. But, like, whether it's Chris Shula or any one of the, like Jeff Hafley in Green Bay, there are some really intriguing guys out there that have not been head coaches in the NFL before that I don't think Titans fans should just outright dismiss for the simple fact that they haven't been head coaches in the league before.
Yeah, well, Robbie, I know you could speak on Jeff Hafley better than a lot of people, being as though that's your favorite team's DC, and you've seen what this Packers defense has done, since he got there. So I that's a really good candidate, in my opinion, and I think he's somebody you could pair with an OC, whether it's a veteran one or what have you. You take Jeff Hafley and let's say Matt Nagy, is the OC there. That's a good pairing. You know what I mean? So. And he's been there and done that, right? Jake Lyman yesterday on his show made a great point. He's kind of like that happy medium, whereas, okay, you do want a young up and coming coach, right? But you want a coach that has some experience. Well, he has experience being a head coach in Boston College, so he gives you a little bit of that. He's like right in between the two.
Yeah, I think he's someone we probably haven't talked about enough. So TD, I'm gonna just assume John Harbaugh, is not going to interview with the Titans, and who knows? I mean, Giants or maybe the Bills' job pops open or whatever. But I think right after him, for most of the league would be Kevin Stefanski. But I know there's a lot of really varying opinions on Stefanski. Where do you come down on Kevin Stefanski?
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't care for him at all. And to me, as a head coach, as a man, if you are the whole situation with Shedeur, I didn't like that, right? Not because I'm a big advocate of Shedeur Sanders. I don't like the fact that, look, man, you have a goal, and that's to win football games. And he let his personal, whatever it is with Shedeur Sanders, get in the way of them beating the Titans. Why on earth are you running Wildcat after your quarterback is cooking all day? Why are you running Wildcat for a 2-point conversion? The fact that Shedeur would come off the field and he wouldn't go. Now, this is an offensive coach now. Like, we're not talking about a defensive minded coach. He's an offensive coach. Why, when your quarterback comes off the field, you don't go over and talk to him? What kind of mess is that? And then on top of that, what type of mean girls high school stuff is that to let a personal vendetta get in the way of how you try to develop the quarterback? Like, that's just a bunch of nonsense. I wouldn't want that type of person leading my organization. But hey, man, I'm on the phone talking to you guys, not over there at St. Thomas Sports Park making the decisions.
Which it's a great way to spend your morning talking to us. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Absolutely, man, for sure.
Nothing you'd rather be doing. TD, great stuff as always. It's going to be fun to see how this wraps up here over the next couple of weeks with the Titans head coach, and we will talk to you next Friday, my friend.
All right, for sure, man. Hey, let me say this, man. I went and saw Michaela Blakes last night.
Yeah.
Hey, Rexrode. She's like the microwave Vinnie Johnson, man. Fourth quarter, in 3 minutes, she had like 14 points. Next thing I know, she got 20-something. I said, good Lord.
But she's not pulling that jumper over the back of her head like Jamal Wilkes, though. That's the microwave. But no, man, she is
her
amazing.
Jumper's like butter, man. Yeah, she's all that.
Yes. Finally got some hoops talk on here.
Yeah,
that's right. Let's go.
That's all it
That's
took.
it. That's all you're gonna get from me, though. That's it.
There we go. TD, thank you, sir.
All right, fellas, take care.
Teron Davenport with us every Friday morning at 8 o'clock here on the program. TD is fueled by Parman Energy. Visit parmanenergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution. We will react to what TD had to say. We've got Pigskin Pick'em coming up at 8:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Appreciate TD for being with us in the last segment, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, our phone number. Joe, TD, not a big fan of the Kevin Stefanski idea. So add him to the list. I mean, we've heard from a lot of people this week that either really like the idea of Kevin Stefanski. We've heard from a lot of people who really do not like the idea of Kevin Stefanski. Add TD to the do not category.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I hear what he's saying. I guess I don't know all the ins and outs of that. I do know that like Shador, I like Shador. He's my favorite quarterback of the last class. I think he definitely some of the hatred for Shador is over the top. Also, he did things like have the interview where he like wouldn't speak, and like Shador obviously has done some stuff to hurt himself. So I don't know what happened behind the scenes with them. I mean, I'm also, so TD mentioned the 2-point conversion. So obviously that was a stupid call. But I don't know if that necessarily, relates to like their relationship. That might have just been a dumb call, right? Like it's a dumb, like this is our 2-point
maybe
play.
I mean, it was pretty dumb.
Know. Yeah, it was dumb. But yeah, I agree. Like it wasn't a good look. I mean, it wasn't a good look for, I guess, the fancier, like the whole organization when they like drafted Shador and they're like,
great. Yeah.
Let's clap. I don't know. To me, that's not I definitely have questions about that. If I'm in the Titans building, I want to know what the heck went on. And I have questions about that, not just for Stefanski. I mean, I want to hear both sides of the whole thing. And if you're not satisfied with it, and it's like, yeah, he was way too petty and he was immature when he's supposed to be the 40-something adult, and this is a kid who just came out of college. So is that a red flag? Yeah, if I don't get satisfactory explanation on that, then yeah, then that would be a deterrent. But it's not a non-starter for me because I want to know more. I want to know exactly what went on.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not a non-starter for me either, but I would probably fall in the category of if they hired Kevin Stefanski, would I hate it? No. Would I be overly excited about it? I think the answer to that is probably no too. Like he just to me is one of those guys that's like, I understand that he was dealt a bad hand in Cleveland, right? Like the ownership situation is not great, and they over-involved themselves in Deshaun Watson, and then Jimmy Haslam has taken full responsibility for the Deshaun Watson situation since then. There would be other candidates in mind for me ahead of Kevin Stefanski. I've talked about it, like McCarthy to me would be ahead of Stefanski. I am intrigued by guys like Hafley, by Chris Shula. Like those guys intrigue me, and I've said it. Like you don't have to have head coaching experience for me to be a legitimate candidate for this job. You don't have to be an offensive guy for me to be a legitimate candidate for this job. But there are some probably not as much as Nagy, because I think there's some strong opinions on Nagy either way from both the Chicago fan base and some Titans fans around here. But there's some probably more all over the map opinions on Kevin Stefanski. And mostly what I see from Titans fans on Nagy is, no thanks, I don't want him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like I think overall he did a pretty good job with some bad circumstances. I definitely still like, if you can get the right one, the play calling head coach. So you are immune to the constant search, the every 2 years search for an OC. But as PK pointed out the other day, and he wrote about, the Titans essentially described a Vrabel-like coach as what they're looking for. And is that Stefanski? And is this whole thing with Shador, does that sort of cast a question on whether that's Stefanski? Because again, like you're going to have personal conflicts, you're going to have stuff that goes on. Like you are the leader of the whole place. So you have to have your arms around that stuff, and you got to be able to deal with it. And there were times that he looked petty in that whole thing. So maybe it hurts him with a team looking for the coach.
Maybe so. That's the thing. When it was also interesting to hear TD's thoughts on the Jason Garrett part of this too, of like, maybe not the worst idea to have him in for the interview, and doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to hire him, but maybe not the worst thing to have him in for an interview. Like he was in Dallas forever. I'm with you. Like the biggest thing to me that would just preclude him from being anywhere near the top of my list would be he hasn't been a head coach since 2019. That's a long time ago in the NFL.
Yeah, and you're in it on TV, and you can be in it as much as, I mean, who knows? Like some of these former coaches or coaches taking a break, they try to stay as connected as possible. It's just been such a long time. A lot of times it's like, because in a year or two you're going to do a little TV, but you're jumping back in.
Right.
I mean, it kind of seemed like he was just doing TV, right? Like, okay, that's not a bad life. Way less stress. You get paid well. You're still in the game in a sense. But I just, even, and I understand coaches, that's why they have front offices, is why you have scouts. But I do feel like the good coaches of this league have a real handle on that too. When they're lining up against other teams, like you're always looking at guys on those teams, and you're really attuned to personnel in college football, all that stuff. It just, I don't know. Some people probably stay a lot more connected than others when it comes to that, but that's just a very long time. But yeah, I think it's a good points made by TD, and I'm less. My initial reaction was, really, but I guess I'm less like that now. It's like, why not? I mean, shoot, interview everyone, just go for it.
I mean, that kind of seems like what they're doing. Yeah, they're interviewing a lot of people. A lot of people out there. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. It is time for Pigskin Pick'em coming up next. We got Indiana and Oregon in the college football playoff tonight. It is wild card weekend in the NFL. We will get into all that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Now, it's time for Pigskin Pick'em with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week, time for Pigskin Pick'em here on the program. We got some college football playoff semifinal action tonight and NFL wildcard weekend coming up. We begin with a standings update in the competition. I led the way last week, 5-1 with my lock. Rexrode 4-2 with his lock. Ian 3-3, no lock. Pretty good week for the show last week, which brings the overall standings at 65-55. 10-10 on my locks, good for 75 points. I'm in first place. Ian with a slight lead for second place, 58-62 overall, 7-13 on his locks, 65 points. Rexrode 53-67 overall, 11-9 on his locks, 64 points. That is your standings update in the competition. Right now, a battle for second and third place, and first place still within reach for both of you.
Not really. It's just that basically this has become a battle for whether Ian or I am going to be buying you pizza. So I'm focused on Ian now. You're my sights, Ian.
There we go. We begin with Oregon and Indiana coming up in the college football playoff semifinal tonight. The winner will take on Miami in the national title game. Indiana is a 3.5-point favorite. I will start on this one. Give me Indiana. I mean, until proven otherwise, I'm just going to pick Indiana because they just keep winning games and a lot of times steamrolling people while they do it. Look, I think Oregon's a good team. We've seen this game played already earlier this year. It was a great game, but I'll take Indiana on the neutral site minus 3.5 to win and to cover. Ian Safar, who we got?
I'm also going with Indiana. Both teams have been playing pretty well. Indiana more impressive last week, so I'll go with Indiana.
Going with Indiana. Joe Rexrode, who you got between the Ducks and the Hoosiers?
Well, may as well differentiate myself. I don't know why I'm picking against Indiana after watching them treat Alabama like Alabama's UAB, but I am. I think Oregon, if they don't outright win, I think it's a really close game, and I like the 3.5. But you know what? I'll go ahead and put it out there. I think Oregon wins in an upset tonight, and Dante Moore outplays Fernando Mendoza. So there you go.
Wow, that would set up a Ducks and Hurricanes matchup for the national championship. The Green Bay Packers taking on the Chicago Bears this weekend in the wild card round. Packers are a 1.5-point favorite. Ian Safar, you are up first in this one.
Yeah, this has been, I think, my toughest game to pick out of the ones we have here. I guess I'm going to go with the Packers. Been there, done that before. It's on the road. I don't love that, but I'm going to go with Green Bay.
Going with Green Bay. Rexrode, who do you have between the Packers and the Bears?
See, I don't want us all to have the same pick. But whatever. Yeah, you're not going to pick against your Packers. I'll go with the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers too. I don't feel great about it, but I mean, I can't pick the Bears in a playoff game against the Packers. I don't care if the line was minus 17.5. So no, thank you. I'll go Packers minus the 1.5. Bills and Jags coming up this weekend. The Bills also a 1.5-point favorite on the road against Jacksonville. Joe Rexrode, you were up first in this one.
It's a really tough one. Jacksonville's playing better. I think Jacksonville's playing just about as well as anybody in the league, and they get this game at home. The pool will absolutely be bubbling over with milk. But I got to go with the Bills. I just can't believe the Bills are just going to go out with a whimper when they have such an opportunity in front of them. Give me Buffalo.
Give me Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville gets the win. They get the win against Buffalo, which is going to create a very interesting conversation as it relates to Sean McDermott and the Bills with John Harbaugh out there. But look, I think Jacksonville's playing really well. Look, it's the playoffs. It's a new season. Experience matters, all those things. But I just like the way that Jacksonville's playing. And I like the way that this is at home for them. So I'll take Jacksonville plus the 1.5 and to win the game outright. Ian Safar, who you got?
Yeah, I'm also going with the Jags. I think the Jacksonville's going to win. AFC has been absolutely crazy already this year. No Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Burrow. Let's just throw no Josh Allen in there either. Give me the Jags.
So right now, this is setting up for Rexrode to either make up some ground or to be significantly behind
Yeah.
in the competition at the end of this week.
Just flush me to the bottom.
Could be. It could be. We move to the individual portion of the program. Give me the Patriots minus 3.5 against the Chargers and make it my lock. I'm locking down on the Vrabster. I don't know why I feel as strongly about this game as I do, but I felt this way all week. I think the Patriots are going to win by more than a touchdown. So I'll go Patriots minus 3.5, and we'll lock down on that. Ian Safar, your first individual selection.
Yeah, I'm not picking that game. I had trouble coming to a conclusion on that. I don't know. Chargers are playing well. They rested some players. Herbert. I decided to leave that one alone. My lock this week is an over-under. Give me over 38.5 Pittsburgh versus Houston. Make it my lock.
Guarantee. Over 38.5 for the Steelers and the Texans. I like that. And locking down on it as well. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection.
Okay, well, guess what? I got an over-under lock too, but it's tonight, Indiana, Oregon, 48.5. I think this game is going to be like 23-20 Oregon. Give me the under and make that my lock.
Guarantee. Locking down on the under. What was that number, 48.5?
48.5.
48.5 tonight between Indiana and Oregon. Rexrode, your second individual selection.
Okay, well, you know what? I may as well just go ahead and go head-to-head with you. It probably won't end well for me. But, I'm glad that, we've been talking about this all week, and I just think, the Patriots might win on a last-second field goal, and that's kind of what I envision. But the Chargers, I think, are going to give them everything they want and really – especially keep that score down and give Drake May trouble with that defense. So give me the Chargers in the 3.5.
Ian Safar, your second individual selection.
I'm going to go with San Francisco. Didn't play very well to end the season last week. Have been dealing with some injuries. I don't love it. Trent Williams, I don't know if he's going to play really. I don't love that against the Eagles. Pass rush, 4.5. I think they can cover that, though, even if the Eagles win. Give me San Francisco plus 4.5.
I will also take San Francisco plus the 4.5 as well. I'm with you. I don't feel great about it. I don't think San Francisco's defense is all that good.
I know. I'm worried the Eagles are just going to run the ball.
I know.
Just like Seattle did, kind of. And
they haven't, the Eagles haven't really been able to do that much all year. It's been a struggle for them, but it's the playoffs, and they kind of feel like one of those teams that might turn it on.
Yeah, Hurts might run a bunch in this game. I don't know.
So we'll see what happens on that front. 49ers plus the 4.5 for both Ian and I. Ian, wrap this up with your final individual selection.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out on the limb. Panthers cover. They're not going to win, but I think they're going to cover the 10.5.
Nice.
So give me Carolina plus 10.5 hosting the Rams.
Panthers plus the 10.5, which is a huge line in a playoff game in the NFL.
Covered last week versus Tampa Bay.
Sure did.
Barely. It was -3 or +3 for them, and it was 2. So I'll go back to them.
Going Panthers plus the 10.5 against the Rams. Rexrode, your final individual selection.
Yeah, I thought about that one too, but I'm going to go Texans Steelers. Steelers +3 at home. I think the Texans are going to win this game 23-13. So give me the Texans, and I'll give the 3.
Going Texans minus the 3 against the Steelers. Give me the Bills and the Jags over-under. Is it 51.5? It's a huge number. I'm going over. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. It's going to be a battle between Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. But I will go over 51.5. Going to be a high-scoring affair down there in Duval. Man, what a story that'll be if Jacksonville comes down there and just immediately starts winning playoff games under that duo that they've got.
I mean, they might be the face of the league, man. I'm trying to think who they'd be like this generation's, like Belichick Brady, but instead coach GM.
Yeah.
Belichick Brady, and I guess Brady was, or Belichick was basically the GM too, so they didn't have a trio. But the Trevor, Liam, and I forget the high schooler's name.
Gladstone, James Gladstone.
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, what a trio. Duval.
Oh, man. We got a lot of people on the text line think that the Steelers are going to beat the Texans. They think that, with Metcalf being back in the fold, that the Steelers are getting ready to open up a can on the Texans.
Yes.
That'll be a close
I
game. I don't
understand.
know about opening up a can.
Yeah, I mean, I just look, man. I think if anything travels, we understand that defense wins championships is an outdated adage and sometimes doesn't apply, but defense travels. That it certainly does. And no, I'm not expecting the Texans to light it up or anything. The Steelers will fight, but you can throw DK Metcalf in there. I think Aaron Rodgers, who to me looks skittish at times when he faces anybody with pass rush anymore. I think you're going to see a happy feet old man out there running around and ducking and getting sacked and throwing the ball away and just not producing many points.
Hey, Riley Leonard looked halfway decent against that Texans defense last week.
God, he looked unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you guys not go to him?
Anytime you can go to Phillip Rivers, you go to Phillip Rivers. You don't worry about Riley Leonard.
I suppose that's true. Yes, Chris in Nashville. My record is 53-67. I suck, okay?
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Final thoughts on Indiana and Oregon coming up tonight, NFL wildcard weekend as well. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final segment of the day, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, add 2 names to the list for requested interview candidates for the Titans. Chris Shula of the Rams and Jesse Minter, now being widely reported. Pelissero, Schefter, Rappaport, among others, putting it out there that you can add Shula and Minter to the list. So, Joe, I don't think really any surprise there that those 2 are getting interviewed, but now you can put the list up to like 16 names or whatever the number is right now.
Yeah, Shula, that's very intriguing. Minter is a up-and-coming coach. Did a good job at Vanderbilt. I guess it depends on how much you care about the fact that he was like, "Hey, Connor Steigens, what should I call Connor? Come here, Connor." And then he's got a show cause from the NCAA along with a lot of that Jim Harbaugh renegade staff of cheaters. But again, was he? First of all, does that matter if you're an NFL team or you're in the NFL? Probably not. People probably don't care too much. I mean, Barry Switzer went to the Cowboys after whatever the heck he was doing in Oklahoma all those years. It's like, whatever. Can you win? I do. It's like, how much did that prop him up though? How much did he had great talent? He's a good coach, but how much did it prop him up to have that sort of schematic advantage?
Yeah.
That's a fair thing to ask, but I think he's also proven himself since he's gone to the NFL.
Some other news. We mentioned Jordan Ross earlier in the show, transferring from Tennessee, the 5-star recruit from the 2024 class. He has signed with LSU. Pete Nakos putting it out there. So the Lane train getting Jordan Ross from Tennessee to sign at LSU, Joe.
I mean, that's the thing. When you lose someone like that and you're like, okay, well, he hadn't really produced a lot. Maybe, who knows? Like sometimes guys are encouraged to leave. Right? That does happen. And you may think they're about to be a key player, but then you find out. But when he goes to LSU, you're like, man, Lane just came in here and just threw a big number at him and stole away a guy who was going to start for us next year. That sucks. And it does. And so that's what. So if you're Josh Heupel, you need to do that stuff to other people more often.
Yep. Totally agree. So Indiana, Oregon coming up tonight in the semifinal. Miami punched their ticket last night in a thrilling win against Ole Miss. So Carson Beck and the Hurricanes are in the national title game, and they'll find out their opponent tonight. Joe, what do you make of the matchup between Indiana and Oregon in a battle in the Big Ten?
Well, I can't wait. I think it's going to be good. Like I just said last segment, I think it's going to be kind of like the first meeting, which is I think the defenses are going to have the edge. We know, like Indiana, man, they're just a solid, sound, all-around defense, and Oregon has some big-time talent on their side of on the defense, including Uiagalelei's little brother. They've got some tremendous talent in the back end, and I think Dan, this is a tremendous coaching matchup. Kurt Cignetti is the toast of probably sports, not just college football. It's an incredible story, what he's done. And basically people look at him like, oh, so this is just Saban part 2, just got his chance way later and probably way later than he should have. But Dan Lanning's really good too. Dan Lanning's a really good coach. Sometimes he gets a little bit intense. Like, chill it out, man. Chill it out. Like, we will kill them and leave their bodies for them to. It's like, calm down. Just, it's a football game, Dan. But he is, he's really good. And man, the fact that they lost that game at home in a very close game, great game, with Mendoza threw a pick 6, but bounced back from it and led them in the winning score. I just think. This is a huge prove-it moment for Lanning to see if he can out-coach Cignetti in any way. And I just think some of the adjustments and the game plans are going to be really fascinating to watch. But I like the defenses in this game.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how it goes. I mean, the sexy part of the matchup is the quarterbacks with Mendoza and Moore going head-to-head, and they could be the first 2 picks in the draft. We'll see, do either one of them put together a special performance tonight, right? Does that happen? Where you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, I mean, they may have just locked up the number 1 overall pick next year. We'll see what happens on that front. I just, with what Indiana has done until they lose in this tournament, I think I'm just riding with Indiana. And I understand, like, Miami could absolutely win this thing, right? I mean, you watched them play last night, the talent they've got on the defensive side of the ball, some of the pass catchers that they got. I think Carson Beck has done really well for himself so far in the playoff in terms of, could he be helping his draft status moving forward here too? I mean, look, we forget, Joe, that, this time, well, not this time, but before last season when he was still at Georgia, when you started to think about like the preseason number one overall picks in the NFL, Carson Beck's name came up just as much as anybody else's did, right? Which kind of goes to show you, like, he was the talk of the town of being the number one pick before last college football season. This year, it was like, oh, is it going to be Lenore Sellers? Is it going to be Garrett Nussmeier? Is it going to be Arch Manning? So it kind of goes to show you what the value of like preseason talk in college football for number one picks ultimately ends up meaning, which is not very much. But like, it's not like Carson Beck just got less talented. Like, he's got great size, good ability, and he's playing really well right now.
Now, he is so interesting when it comes to NFL draft because you're right. He has traits. I thought last night, I just thought he was fearless, and he let it rip and made a lot of big time plays. And so if he wins it, if he leads them to a title and outduels either one of these quarterbacks, which is what it's going to be. I mean, maybe he won't outduel them and they could still win. Maybe Miami gets a strip sack, whatever. But still, if he beats either one of these quarterbacks who are in the top two of the draft, according to most people right now, I could totally see at least like one or two teams just totally fall in love with him, saying, hey, man, he was there all along. Remember, he had a terrible injury last year, and he's bounced back from that too. So, yeah, he is a really interesting test case of how just a postseason like we have now with the CFP, with the 12 team, can just change the math for someone so dramatically. We've talked about this has happened at times in the NCAA tournament in basketball where a player goes nuts and all of a sudden he is so much more draftable or moves way up, and there's a GM or two or more who are totally like on board with that player. Can we see that more with this expanded playoff now for the NFL?
Well, and you had Jacoby Thomas flying around last night making plays for Miami. And he was at Tennessee. I think he was at MTSU before that. So Tennessee probably could have used him this year.
They could have. They could use a rangy, difference-making safety for sure. And I thought they were going to get one, and he went to NC State.
He did. So we will see what happens on that front tonight. Going to be a fun weekend in the NFL as well. You got Bears-Packers on Prime coming up on Saturday night. Bills-Jags this weekend as well. Wild card weekend. One of the best football weekends of the year, Joe. You got the college football playoff semifinal and NFL wild card weekend. And, who knows? Maybe one day local teams will be a part of this weekend again down here.
Wouldn't that be nice? But in the meantime, there's also a lot of great college basketball. We never talked about how much college basketball we talked about yesterday on the show.
Oh, I heard about it.
Oh, man.
I'm glad you got it in there.
Oh, it was fantastic. We enjoyed it. Thank you, Connor Newt. He's a hooper. He's a hooper like me.
Let's get Robby out of here more often. Get a little bit more basketball in there.
There you go.
That's going to do it for us today. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. We'll be back on Monday morning. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.